Hey friends, this is the Mrs. Volpe from Our Half Acre Homestead. Gracie. She's pawing on the door. And this weekend I'm canning apples. Deer apples. Now, many people ask me what deer carrots and deer apples are. What they are is like grounders or what you would consider factory seconds. They're sold in 35-pound bags for like usually $8. These were 10 and they're not that great. So they're going to need some sorting. But we're canning apples this weekend and dehydrating. Now, I had to go over these bags very carefully because these are not in the greatest condition. But what we're going to do is we're going to open the bag and we're going to sort them. Some are going to have to be thrown out. Some are, the smaller ones I'm going to put in one dish pan for dehydrating, and the bigger ones I'm going to put in another dish pan for canning. All right, so let's get started. Okay, now like the carrots, you have to go through these. You can't just bring them in the house and let them sit for a couple of days, because there are going to be bad and bruised apples in here. And you know what they say, one bad apple spoils the whole bunch, and that is the truth. Now, I need something to put the crappy ones in. We'll have a box over here. Okay, this is small but doable. Nope. Not bad. Now that's not bad. That's a nice size for canned apples. Small but nice. Nah, not too bad. This is the kind of stuff we're trying to get out of here, right? So here is what we have for dehydrating and canning. Now, I mean, one of these big apples, this one here, has a nasty bruise, but I'm not throwing away the baby with the bath water on that one. And here's some apples going out to the composter for the deer or whatever. They just, this one's really badly bruised. And you know what? Still, and all, 10 bucks, we're still okay. Okay, so here's the best of the large apples. Some of them are bruised. We're going to be cutting that off. But these are the best of the large ones that we're going to be doing for canning. Here is our dish pan full of cold water and lemon juice. I have 2, 4, 6, 7 jars in my great big stock pot. I'm going to put them on simmer. And here is 5 cups of sugar and 10 cups of water. And I'm going to put this on low, give it a stir, and it's discolored because I use organic sugar, guys. It's not white. And we're going to give this a stir, and we want to melt all of that. We want to cook that into a bit of a syrup. So we'll put that on low while we peel our apples. Okay, I'm going to be using my Starfrit peeler today. Always put the stem end on the prongs of your peeler. This is the blossom end, and you're more apt to just rotate your core. This is the strongest part of the apple, so you put your prongs in here so that it holds better, always. Don't want to. The only thing I don't like about this is this handle. They've made the box smaller so that and they've made the handle come off to make the box smaller, but it keeps coming off in my hand. Yeah, well, these are deer apples, dear, and there's a box out there for the deer that I won't be able to use. Oh, I guess that's going to work. into the lemon water. That goes. The reason you see me push the core back through is because if you try and push it through here, these blades are sharp and you can slip and really cut yourself. So push your core back through the dull side. See, some of these are quite bruised and I want to be careful. I was just worried that the peeler would just mangle them rather than peel them. See, they don't like the bruises. They really don't. But that's okay. That's what paring knives are for. If these are $10, I would hate to see what good apples are costing. But you know what? I may keep my eyes on the grocery store sales and get some more if they go on sale, like, you know, 10-pound bags for $3.99 or whatever. We'll see. Okay, we're going to get our blanching water on. And I actually went ahead and made my simple syrup half sugar, half water. And I put 2 cinnamon sticks in it, which we'll fish out later. But I'm going to put this over here for now because we have to blanch our apples. Now while that water is coming up to a boil, I'm going to start my apple cider vinegar. Here are our cores and our apple peels from our first batch of canning apples. Now you know why I washed all my apples before I did this. And we're just going to put them in this stainless stock pot. I have several of these, or at least 2 with handles and 1 without. And but I'm almost done canning for the year, so I really don't need this much. Now I will be adding more, okay? But for now, we're gonna get these started. Where's my measuring spoon? Now, for every cup of water, we're gonna add 1 tablespoon of sugar. So I'm going to do this mechanically here. This is a 2-cup measure, so I'm gonna add 2 of my organic sugar. Mix that in there. And we're going to pour this over our apples. We only want as much, just enough water to cover our apple stuff. Now I'm using basic room temperature water. You want this to just cover the apples. So we're just going to keep doing this until we cover the apples. So don't ask me for measurements, folks. Why? Because you need enough liquid. You need enough liquid to cover your apples. And for every cup of water, you put 1 tablespoon of sugar. So it all depends on how many apple cores and peels you have. And if you push this down, the water comes up over the top of the apples. You don't want to flood the apples. Now I'm going to put this plate in here upside down to hold the apple stuff under the water. And I'm going to go put this in the pantry, and when I'm done with the rest of my apples, I will add more apple peels and cores and more sugar water. Okay, here's our strained apples. Here's our blanching water. And I've put a little bit of lemon juice in here. And I'm going to see how many I can get in here. I don't know if I can get them all in, but we'll see. Be really careful, folks. Not to splash. Yeah, we're going to get them all in, I think. One dish pan usually does them all. Now I'm just going to set the basket on here, and I'm going to leave them in this blanching water for about 1 to 2 minutes. All right, there's our full minute in the blanching water. Now I'm just going to shut this off, and I'm just going to start taking these out. putting them in the dish pan. It's too full for me to safely lift and strain this. So as usual, I am going to lift some of these off. And now I can go strain these. And then we're going to rinse them under cold water and we'll be back. Okay, we've got our syrup back on, heating up. We have our 7-quart jars in the big stock pot bubbling away on a rack. Some of this water is going to have to come out as we fill it with full jars, but for now. And here are our strained and rinsed apples. Here's our syrup. Okay, so here's our first jar out of the canner. Halfway, and here's our lids, washed, rinsed in hot water, our always rag, our debubbler, and our clean sterile jars. Now I'm leaving the cinnamon sticks in the bottom because you don't put the actual spices in the jar. We go half full, and then we're going to start topping it up and up. You put your syrup in there first for the same reason we do it with everything else. It helps the debubbling process. All right. There we go. More of our organic cinnamon syrup. Always wipe your rims with a clean, damp paper towel. Fresh hot lid. And you may find you have to empty some of the water out of your canner as you take the jars out because you're putting them back in full. Up to 1.5 cups of syrup. My syrup is brown because I use organic sugar and I threw a couple of cinnamon sticks in. Nothing overpowering, just something to season up the syrup a little bit. And I had cinnamon sticks, so why not, right? Make sure your jars are covered by at least 1 inch to 2 inches of water in your canning pot. Put the lid on, and when this comes back up to a boil, we're going to cook these for 20 minutes. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the rest of this cinnamon syrup, and I'm just going to put it in a jar. I'm going to strain it, make sure there's no apple bits in there. I'm going to add a little bit of water to this. I'm going to pop this right in the canner with the apples. And that way I have cinnamon syrup if I want to do anything else later on. I'll can that right with these. Make sure you have a shot of vinegar in your canner water. Okay, let's try that again. We're using this peeler now. Hands do not want to work. We're using this peeler now because we're going for the dehydrator. And I like the apples in slices. I can cut them up in bits if I want to put them in bits of something else at a different time. But the truth is, when I make my apple pies from my apples and simple syrup, I like to fill the bottom of the pie shell with dehydrated apple slices. And that makes the pie plump up, and you only have to use 1 jar of apple and syrup. So into the lemon water they go. And all of our peels and bits are going into the vinegar so we can ferment. There is our timer for our canned apples. So let's go over and get those out of the can. Always put your stuff on a clean, dry surface. Never put it directly on a countertop or table. Your jar could crack in the temperature change. So clean, dry towels or placemat of some kind. Six quarts of apples and simple syrup, and a jar of simple syrup. All right, we have our trays loaded with our fine mesh. I just get a habit of putting them on there, and we're just going to start laying these apples all over the rack. I didn't bother straining them. I just took them right out of the I'm taking them right out of the lemon water. Somebody said, oh my God, putting a jar over the hole is absolutely brilliant. Well, the first time I thought of that, I smacked myself in the forehead because I had been fussing with it for years without even thinking about that. You don't want them too thick, but they don't have to be individually laid out. You know what I mean? Because every once in a while, I'll come out, I'll rotate the trays if I've got too many. But these are, if you want, you know, people talk about making dried apple pie. Well, you know what? These apples, when they're dried, you put them in the bottom of your apple pie crust, and you put your canned apples over top, and the juice from the canned apples will plump up your dehydrated apples, and your pie actually rises. Not a lot, but enough for the 6 quarts that I've got for pies, right? It doesn't take a lot of dried apples in the bottom of a pie. Okay, now we'll put this on 135 degrees, the fruit and vegetable setting, and we'll be back tomorrow. All right, for the last little bit, I shut this off when I think it's dry, because when you first turn it off, they won't be crisp. They'll be kind of flaky. So you let them cool down a little bit. And now we're just going to start stuffing them in a clean mason jar. I should have maybe got a half-gallon jar, but I'm running out of those, folks. And my local hardware store wants $32 for 6 of them. That is $6 for a half-gallon jar. They've got to be out of their mind. Yeah, in order to get these to fit in a quart jar, I would have to break them up. And we want these in slices for our pies. It won't fill the whole half-gallon jar, but you know what? It'll be fine. These will not last the winter, folks. Well, they might last the winter, but they're not gonna, you know, it's not like I'm keeping them for 2 years, right? And they make great snacks too, folks. I love dried apples for snacks. I'll have to stay out of them. I'll be like a mouse dipping into them. There we go. And here is what $10 of deer apples got me. 6 quarts of apples in syrup and a half-gallon jar of dried apples. That's all we need for winter. And remember, folks, once you turn your boil bath canner off, I made this mistake. Once you turn your boil bath canner off, please let these jars stay in the water until it stops boiling. Because I took them out too soon and I actually got some syrup siphoning out of the jar. So you want to avoid that. So leave them in the canner until the water is stopped boiling. This is the Miss Wolfie from our half-acre homestead saying, yay, apple pies this winter. Take care, God bless. And remember, folks, if you're not using 4Jars canning lids, you're missing out. Heavier than any other single-use lids on the market, they are a U.S. company, and these lids are of superior quality. The only lids I will use. Check the description box below this video for the link, and use the coupon code HALFACRE for 10% off. Orders over $50, ship free within the USA. Check them out on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. They make the perfect gift for the home canner in your life. 4Jars lids. You can't go wrong.